Welcome back to 7th Grade Mustache. On today's episode, we'll be speaking about the illusion of choice. The illusion of choice is often used in advertising and marketing to make people feel like they're in control of their purchase decisions. If free will is deprived from an individual, he or she will become resentful or rebellious, even if the choice is forced upon them is identical to the one they would have selected of their own accord. The term is often used to describe an illusion that multiple choices are available. The political illusion of the two-party system is one that gives the voter a choice between a liberal and conservative government. Ideology is the glue that holds those two parties together, or any political party together. In 1999, the Palestinian government signed a deal with BP British Petroleum for an area that is near the Gaza coast. The natural gas wells were drilled, the same area that Israel wants to remove all the Palestinians from right this very moment. In 2007, Hamas is created with the help of the Israeli intelligence agency. In the exact same way, Al-Qaeda was created by the American intelligence agencies. The Israeli military invades Gaza and takes the natural gas wells that belongs to the Palestinians. In doing so, they rob the Palestinians of $47 billion in profits that would go to Palestinians, but instead is usurped by Israel. Now, fast forward to September 26th of 2022. 3 explosions ripped the Nord Stream pipeline open. The same Nord Stream pipeline that goes all the way from the North Sea to Russia. This operation was fronted by the Ukrainian military. Keep in mind, Russian oil and gas was sanctioned or blocked from being exported. Also, Iranian oil was sanctioned and blocked from being exported, while the Syrian oil fields are under the control of the U.S. military right now at this very moment. So Israel has a lack of resources, but they now have natural gas thanks to the Palestinians. So what do? They use the Ukrainian military to cut off Russia's natural gas pipeline because Russia was Europe's main natural gas supplier. Israel can now provide Europe with the natural gas and monopolize the market via the new East Med pipeline as an East Mediterranean pipeline. All of the atheists claiming divine right to control the world, it's not made up. Go to a high-level Jewish wedding and you will hear the rabbi speak of this right before vows are exchanged.
When people ask you what a Zionist is, or what they're trying to do is create the promised land from the Bible for people that aren't biblical. So don't ever get it twisted. And the ones that are in charge are atheists. Nihilists. See, atheists believe in heaven and hell. These are nihilists. They don't believe in anything. But they know that they have these other people convinced that they have some kind of divine right. They're God's chosen people. Look, even when these people tell them to go home, their home is Russia and Germany and shit. Places in Europe. So, yeah, these people sit here and they manipulate the world governments. They manipulate the banking system. They manipulate everything. And right now, these Palestinians who have a right to be there, you're pushing them off their land because you realize they have a big ass commodity that brings in $400 billion fucking dollars. Y'all, you guys are wrong. And that money, they need that money. That money would help them. But now you rather kill little kids in front of it, shoot people in the crotch and laugh about it.
The shock and awe campaign is being used for all of the normies. It's being used for people who don't go back into history beyond the
Far
Bible.
enough.
So therefore, this biblical standoff is what gets everybody. It gets into the fear sectors of everybody's brain and spirit. And it's what gets a hand hold over everybody, gets a grip on the population so that they can follow along on this emotional roller coaster.
And look, I saw a sister on Instagram talk about this shit and saying and talking about these people in Israel as if they're the Israelites, like as if they're the biblical Israelites. And she's like, "Yeah, you need to support." I'm like, "Oh my God, This is how they get the average person. Church is like anything else; they half-ass. So they learn a little bit. They learn just enough to be dangerous. And you know that the people in the Bible are called Israelites, and you know the people in Bible from Judea, and you know the people and Jesus is this. And here's the crazy part. So they're saying where Jesus was born would have been in one of these Palestinian areas that
His
were
mother was
holding hostage,
Palestinian.
allegedly. But look, the bottom line is where he was born, it would be in one of those territories. And so all these people were sitting here since they know just enough of the Bible to be dangerous. They're like, oh my God, that's the promise, that's the Holy Land, that's this, that's that. No, this is an area divided up by England back in what, you said 1913 or some shit? That's
1860.
1860, excuse me. And so because you want to be a good Christian, you subscribe to something that if you do any research, those people are not who they say they are. In fact, the Muslims from Chicago always bring up the damn scripture where it talks about those who claim to be Jewish and ain't Jewish or from the synagogue of Satan. They love to bring up that scripture. That's the only one they know.
But remember, in last week's show, those that worship prosecutors.
Knowledge.
No, there was a cult in Judea that worshipped those that were excellent at arguments.
Yes, yeah.
Imagine if MCing in hip hop had got to such a cult level that there were spin-off religions, fanboys, that worshipped MCs like gods. That's the same thing.
Look, don't laugh. I wrote a script like that in college where, right after Pac and Biggie died, and people like kind of split hip hop up. And so you either was West Coast or East Coast, and then you had to get cats that
Stop
were like...
right there. Stop right there. That same illusion of choice was given to you with hip-hop music. And I was going to get to that because this illusion of choice goes into all different cultures, and especially black culture. Because we are probably one of the most tampered with populations in modern times. So, especially when you consider our contribution to culture, some people come along and they see a gift that we have and they want to manipulate that, but they want to control the pace at which you create and how far and wide your message is spread and the type of message that you send. So therefore, an artificial beef was created between black men from the East Coast and the West Coast in the 1990s in the United States.
It had real ramifications too. People were really dying behind this shit and injuring people over lyrics.
But you also have to understand that the prison industrial complex and the drug industrial complex were working together to make sure that black men were under a glass ceiling, and they filled up the jails and they filled up the funeral parlors so that they could follow the narrative that they dictated for black men and black families in America.
Oh, hold it. Okay, there's two things. First, they were building super jails and jails that weren't full. And they were building jails before they had a problem. So they had to come up with an explosion of crime. And that music was a big part of it. The other thing that I want people to notice, so look at some of these countries where drugs are legal. All of a sudden, a lot of the problems went away. The biggest thing people don't understand about the drug trade, it funds the judicial system. What are you saying, duct tape? Let me explain to you. If you ever notice that when, like, say, for instance, a drug dog costs $20,000, $30,000 for a German Shepherd to sniff drugs, when you can go get a Cocker Spaniel to do the exact same job. And so this small-time sheriff in the middle of nowhere, they don't have that kind of funding. But when they do a drug bust, who gets the money? Well, part of that money goes back to the dog. Part of the money goes to the department. So whenever they bust this money, nobody, ain't nobody going to come, hey, I lost $200,000. Or they'll take your money. That one stripper, she was going from, please forgive me, I don't remember where she's going from. I think she's going to Vegas from like Montana. She had like a big haul. They stop her. She has over $100,000. No drugs, nothing illegal. They confiscate her money. That money's going to that police force. Now, she luckily she had enough money to, go to court. But that's the reason that drugs aren't legal. It's not because drugs are bad and they care about the community. Drugs are illegal because they fund the judicial system. Where else when you look at these big areas, LA, California, Illinois, Chicago, New York, New York, That money funds that judicial system. Those judges get part of that money. And that's why that stuff will never be legal. And so until you realize that's how they afford all this crazy stuff is because of those drug busts. They're important. So then you have small towns in Texas, some crazy sheriff. In fact, hey, they got one right now in Georgia where that one sheriff was fucking with that dude, and he's like, "No, you don't have any rights, and you can't, I don't have to explain shit to you." That kind of stuff. But they get all emboldened because they do a couple drug busts. They get $200,000 or $300,000, and next thing you know, they think they're the big shit. So, but again, this is what one brother means by illusion of choice. They give you a couple choices, and this is what Dave Chappelle was talking about when he was talking about integrity. We went from good and bad to better and worse. Like, the Democrats are worse, or the Republicans are worse. The Democrats are better. No, it's either you're good or you're bad. And that's how we got away from integrity. We got away from yes and no. We got away from the things that were definites. So definitely there's a problem in the Middle East, but there are people who stage these wars on purpose. We talk about the prison industrial complex, we talk about the military industrial complex, but we also talk about people who know that there are people who think these people are biblical and they're not. And so they use that, hey, I'm Jewish, you can't do that to me. Or, hey, Christ was Jewish too, just like me. Not quite. Not quite. But yeah, that's how they hustle us. They make us think that hey, well, you decided this is your choice. No, we didn't decide that. You eliminated my choice, and you gave me two to pick from or three to pick from, and then I jump on board with that shit. That's not how it's supposed to work.
You and I know people that had it in their mind that they only had one of two choices as a teenager growing up: military or the dope game. And people chose one of those two. I did not allow anybody to put those choices into my head. Duct Tape did not allow anybody to put those choices into his head because we're adventurers. And we chose to go to places that we've never been to, plant ourselves there, and learn, grow, and succeed.
But not just that, it was discipline too. A lot of people go to these places for discipline. We got discipline at home.
Yeah, I don't have any daddy issues. I don't have mommy issues. I don't feel the need for like anybody to like put me in my place, or I don't need none of that shit. I've had 18 years of that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't need more of it. I'm good.
But see,
I learned all the lessons that I needed to learn under my parents' roof.
No, hey, but not everybody gets that. And look, you got people like Charleston White saying that everybody needs to go to prison or need to go to the military. I'm like, you're a dickhead.
See, okay. All he's doing though is putting people into that state of mind. And see, that's a nihilistic view. I'm just going to call it straight out. That's a nihilistic view. Oh, hold on, bro. I got to call shit when I see it, and that's bullshit.
Oh, no. That's
a nihilistic fucking view. Like, when you have that kind of view, it's because you've been institutionalized. And but hang on a second.
Yep.
But see, he's managed to come out of that shit. So then he's trying to tell me, he's trying to sell institutionalization for everybody. Well, you sound like a fucking communist, homeboy.
Hold it. He does explain himself. So I don't want to do what the military does. Excuse me, with the media. I said military. I don't know what the media does, where they just hit you with a headline and then you got headline readers. No, he explains himself. He said, "Look, these children, these people today, these people are becoming adults with no discipline. So you need to go someplace to get discipline." And he explained himself very well. He was actually eloquent. He's saying that motherfuckers
see that? No. I still disagree with that shit because you're letting the parents off the hook.
Hold it. You're right to disagree. I disagree too because, like I said, when we were kids, they loved to hit us with that military shit. Hold it. Let me explain something to you. He was eloquent. He explained himself. But what you're saying is true. I just saw a clip of a teacher crying. She's like, "Look, I got 5-year-olds. I'm teaching kindergarten, and these kids want to listen to Pound Town." She's like, "These parents are terrible. They don't want to be parents." She said, "I got a little girl that wouldn't mind and wouldn't listen." So I tell her mother like, "Why'd you keep telling her? You know she ain't gonna do it." I'm like, That's because there's no discipline at home. In some kind of way, that child is an equal partner in this relationship. That's not the case. You're supposed to provide for that child and teach that child. Now, these people are buying clothes, these people are buying food, and they're providing a roof over their head, but they're not raising them. Your parents raised you. My mother raised me. They had the whole intent of you becoming an adult one day and leaving, and they had faith that what I gave you at this house was enough for you to do whatever the hell it is your heart desired or whatever you wanted to be. But these people ain't doing that shit no more. Like I said, I don't agree with the man's statement. And me and you are we cut from the same kind of cloth. But what he said is these people lack discipline, and he's right. And what you're also right about is these parents are being let off the hook. There's no culpability or responsibility. And that's the problem where you have a choice. You can join the dope game. You can do this. They give you these fake choices that will destroy your life. All these parents have to do is start parenting and not feel guilty and not be manipulated or not think that their kid is going to be a fucking basketball player or a football player or something and provide for them. No, you raise your child, and whatever that child goes out to do, yeah, they should take care of you and whatever, but you need to raise them right. And these people ain't raising these motherfucking kids. And like, you're right, the parents are to blame for that shit. If the parents were spanking and spending time with and reading to and, giving, like you said, you learned life lessons before you left the house. You didn't have to wait till you got into the real world to learn a lesson. You like, hey man, my dad told me about this. Hey, my mom pointed me out. Not everybody got that. But again, like I said, when Charleston White said the shit, he explained himself. So I didn't know
this is like a comedian who has no fucking material, so they try and get by on crowd work all the time, and then they want to fucking get mad when that shit ain't working.
Did you used to hate that shit? You pointed out this comedian. You said that he did the cardinal sin. He wasn't funny. He was well known. He's well liked. He's helped a lot of people. I don't want to say his name because I don't want to give him any shine. I don't know the nigga. But one of the things you said, he broke the cardinal rule. He wasn't funny. But he loved to talk about eating pussy, and he would just be vulgar for the sake of... People always want to get mad at Richard Pryor for being vulgar, but he was always funny. His vulgarity was part of the joke. He wasn't just saying eat pussy for the sake of saying eat pussy.
No, but see, Richard Pryor just had that funniness in his DNA, like in his soul. He
had time. He had great time. He had material.
He had all the right elements, though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
he built it up. He built it up. You know what I'm saying?
No.
And then people will say, Paul Mooney helped him write. Whoa.
He wrote 2 jokes for the nigga.
Yeah, exactly. And then Paul Mooney didn't grow up in a whole house. Okay?
No.
You know what I'm saying?
No.
Paul Mooney wasn't hanging out with Mudbone. Okay? Paul Mooney didn't create Mudbone. All right?
No.
So...
Look, I'll give you an example. Like, when you sit here, it would drive me crazy when you watch these comedians, and I would say they weren't funny. People are like, what's wrong with you? And like, this person would just say, eat pussy and wait for the laugh. Man, pussy, and just wait for the laugh. No. Richard Pryor was saying like, hey man, shit, my uncle told me never to eat no pussy. Man, I couldn't wait to eat pussy when I turned 15. Nigga been wrong about everything else. That's hilarious.
But see, but here's the deal.
You knew the joke. Hold it. You knew the joke and you still chuckled.
Exactly.
You knew what I was going to say.
Exactly. Because the premise is hilarious. But check this out though. But here's the thing, man. But then, okay, you and I, our comic IQ is super fucking high, no cap. All right. But the thing is that a lot of people are either they like clean or they like dirty, and they feel like they can't like both. You can like both, man.
Hold it. This is what we're talking about. This is the illusion of choice. That either you like, back in the day, it was either you like Richard Pryor or you like Bill Cosby. You couldn't like both. There was no in between. You had Richard Pryor, Red Fox, Eddie Murphy. Who else was on the dirty side?
But then you had like clean comics that just weren't funny, like Franklin Ajayi.
Okay, which one is he?
Okay, Robert Townsend and his Partners in Crime. He was a dude that always come on the stage with the saxophone, or he would have the clarinet, some fucking woodwind or some bullshit.
He was a Superfly from, he was a fly in a car wash, right? Franklin Ajayi.
Exactly.
He had terrible time. He had a great voice. Literally, he had this dope-ass voice, but he just didn't have timing. And he just wasn't that funny. and it drove me crazy because it's like he'd be on the verge of saying something funny, and that nigga ran all the way home and fucked it up. It's like he spent time like, dude, you're killing your own joke. But on the same tip, growing up, you had a lot of people that wouldn't watch Sinbad. They said, "I can't." I
Oh,
remember being in
Sinbad, bro. Like, I'm so glad he's not dead. He's still around, but his health ain't that
hold,
great. That
hold
motherfucker
it.
is so funny, bro, and he's
But
clean.
hold it. You knew where I was going. I remember being at the barbershop. I remember being at Youngblood, and one of these guys said, "I can't watch him. He doesn't cuss." He said, "I don't watch any comedian that doesn't cuss." And I'm a little kid thinking like, "Oh man." So I go listen to Sinbad. The nigga was hilarious. He won star shirts. He had great timing. He would talk about things.
Dude, his premises were hilarious. I mean, like,
Solid.
dude, he would talk about like just being a young man, like fresh out of high school in the world, and you got like one pair of good draws. You got like messed up draws, but you got a one pair of good draws, dude. Silly shit like that, I can relate to.
The idea that you can't like Bill Cosby and Richard Pryor. That's the whole point. Or you had a couple guys in the middle. One of the guys that was in the middle was like oh my God, the one that said, "Hey, Mexicans got their own phone company, Taco Bell."
Are you talking about
You know him?
what's the name? Black comic or Latino comic?
Yeah, black comic. They just interviewed him on the 95 South show, and I can't think of his name right now. He would talk fast.
Arnez J.
He's up there with George Wallace. He's one of them.
See, George Wallace is funny.
Hilarious. But they had asked him about so many different comics and how they came up. The whole thing is that you could do both. You can like both. You don't have to pick a side. And that was the biggest thing. And then you had guys like Dick Gregory that was still funny all the way to the end and still enlightening people and still, so this illusion that you have to pick a side. And the other part that as black folks, we're so loyal to shit that we shouldn't be. We're brand loyal. You got motherfuckers, oh, I love Jordans. I will never wear a Reebok and shit like that. And I'm like, I mean, hold it. That's your preference. But the idea that you would fight somebody over Jordans, that's what I mean by black folks. We're loyal to a fault. We're loyal to people who aren't always loyal to us. We'll choose a side. And even now to this day, you still have people, I get it. You don't like Trump. You don't like this. You don't like that. I respect that. I dig it. But then they'll sit there and say, "Yeah, you shouldn't have got this, that, and you should have did." I'm sure you wouldn't affect people. They just go on this tangent. I'm like, look, sis, chill.
Okay, what I hear when that person is ranting, they're trying to detoxify through speech. They're trying to detoxify all of the degradation, the social degradation that's happened within the past 20 years. And they're trying to spit that out as venom because they don't realize it's almost a cathartic moment where they're trying to get it out of themselves because it needs to get out.
It's like an exorcism.
It's like, no, but it's like a person trying to exercise themselves.
Yeah, no.
Could you imagine a person, like a person, blah, 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 oh, Jesus, holy Jesus, blah, blah, blah. I'm saying, like they're going back and forth to try and...
It's like they're arguing, is an internal battle. But it's the same thing when they sit here and say a lot of these guys, he's homophobic. One thing, homophobic means fear. Phobia is a fear. I'm not afraid of gay people. I'm not afraid of any. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm afraid of Mike Tyson. Nick crazy, but no, I'm saying I'm not afraid of something. I'm not to say something's phobic is that is a clinical word, and so like when Tyson asked Bootsy Badass, like, "Hey, do you think because the reason you don't like gay people because you're a little gay yourself?" And I'm like, no. What all those things are based on something that happened back in the 70s and early 80s where they sat there and put that damn diode on these guys' dicks and they showed them gay porn and they were showing different stuff and some of the guys that were the most anti-gay they got a reaction from, and that's what they were like, oh, a lot of these guys that are so against gay guys.
Well, how about the fact you got something taped to your dickhead? I mean, that's gonna cause something to fucking, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then, of course, you're not gonna let a dude do it, so they had a nurse do it. So then, who knows? This motherfucker's still thinking about that nurse that fucking taped that shit to his dickhead, bro. He's probably down the street in his mind in the car, feeling up his broad. Like, fuck out of here, man.
He might have had a lead. Look. I got a funny story about a guy that we know. So this motherfucker tried to convince me once that I, not that I was gay, that he's like, everybody has gay tendencies. I'm like, I don't know about that. Yeah. Have you ever been getting a massage from a man and your dick moved a little bit?
No,
And I turned him slow. Exactly.
no,
Slow turn.
because
Here in his face.
okay. First of all, dudes don't give me a massage, so we can stop right
Ever.
there. Full
Ever.
stop.
Ever.
Full stop.
And then he attempted to like elaborate. Like, well, you got to remember this guy played football, and there were guys that would work on him. There were people that massage or fix. You had to tape them up.
See,
And
that's
that's
the
what
benefit of martial arts, man. I've learned how to heal myself, so I don't
whoa,
need
whoa, whoa!
dumb shit like
I don't
that.
need no help. I don't need help. But
Hmm.
look, either way, it would only be a woman to touch me. I'd be like, no, nope, I don't need that. I
Right.
need a
Okay,
woman.
but hold up. You playing football? You ain't got no broads. You ain't got one broad.
Nowhere in sight.
You know what I'm saying? To top you off or like give some sloppy toppy or some fucking
Yeah,
fucking
massage me.
yeah.
But that was the whole thing that I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You'll never talk me into being gay, and that's the
But
funniest
see,
shit.
what they're doing is they're trying to plant the idea
Yeah,
into
yeah.
your
Hold
head.
it. Look,
That's listen,
I
listen.
was
That is street theater. MK Ultra.
no. Oh, well, yeah. But that's not. Hey, so so Joe Rogan was talking to Joey Diaz. He talks to Joey Diaz all the
Yeah,
time.
I know.
And,
Mad flavor. I know
yeah,
about Joey.
oh no. But he talks about shit like I just saw a video where he was talking about he asked Joey Diaz about the time he got beat up by the gay guy, and he's like, yeah, of course. And then he said you don't understand what it was like back in the '70s, back in the '80s. It was a bunch of pent up frustration, people not coming out of closets. And then he said, hey, I'll give you an example. You need to tell me right now you don't know any dude that you can probably talk into sucking your dick. And he's like, no, I'm not saying do it, but he's a motherfucker's married, got 2 or 3 kids, but you can tell that motherfucker wants a reason to try this shit. And I do know when he's saying it, they're all laughing. I do know motherfuckers like that. I do know motherfuckers that drop hints and say weird shit. And I'm like, I'm not that nigga. First,
But
I told
here's
dude
the
one
thing
time,
though. But when I see motherfuckers like that, the spiritual
struggling.
discernment. No, wait a second. The spiritual discernment alarm goes off. I'm like,
Yes, yeah.
There's
Your
a
gaydar goes off.
there's a disturbance in the force.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, there's something wrong here. You know what I mean?
Look,
Like,
can't nobody talk you into being gay. And hold it. In this day and age, it's not a big deal. If that's what you're into, respect. But don't make it seem like that I'm on that same boat ride with you. I'm not. I'm not in that same canoe, my nigga. And whatever you're experiencing, that's on you. And sometimes you're trying to figure shit out. Sometimes something. There's all kinds of crazy shit. But don't sit here and try to get me. Look, I told a nigga one time because he kept trying to talk to me, and a lot of people they trust me, and he was sputtering, and I'm like, look, let me tell you something, nigga. If you're trying to come out the closet, I'm not the nigga you need to start with. Like you need to go. I need to be the third or fourth motherfucker. I shouldn't be the first one. And he's like, what do you mean by that? I'm like, look, I don't care either way, but don't put your burden on me. don't be that. What you call like a social vampire? Don't put that. Make me have to carry some secret shit. Fuck that. You work your way up. Let motherfuckers find out. Let the rumor get to me. Then you come to me. But don't try to make me carry some burden for you. Nah, I don't need to carry your
what
cross.
should they say? Like, don't carry water for other people.
Yeah. No, I never heard it. That's genius, though. But that people do that. I got one of my daughters going through that shit right now. She got a sorry ass friend doesn't want to take care of a kid, and she's like duct tape. She made me the godmother. I'm like, yeah, that's because she's a bum.
Right.
She knows how to tickle.
Right. Now, but
Yeah,
see, here's the thing, though. So this comes back to the illusion of choice, where
right there, like you chose to take that burden.
where people accept a burden that is not their own when they allow other people to do the thinking for them and making choices for them.
But see, that's the whole thing about manipulation. Manipulation will have you thinking you made that decision. That's what makes that shit special. That's why we're talking about this. When people give you only 2 choices, shitty and shittier, you're liable to take the shitty. You know what? I'll take the shitty. I'll take shittier next time. I'll take one for the team. That's what this is. That's what we're trying to talk about. This. We're trying to have a real conversation where people don't want to have. Men and women manipulate each other in relationships all the fucking time. You got that pimp hand, but sometimes it's the woman, sometimes it's the man. But don't sit here and get confused and think that the decision, you made the decision. And usually when people give you 2 decisions, they know which one you're going to pick anyway. And if you're dumb enough to pick the worst one, they're like, oh shit, fuck it, I got this bitch. I got her mind and soul. Or hey, yeah, this nigga's gone behind me. His nose is wide the fuck open. He'll go co-sign a loan for me right now. So they're giving you a choice. Look, I was telling my daughter, like, hey, when you stay in a relationship longer than you're supposed to, you invite yourself for abuse. That is invitation for abuse. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, baby, if somebody breaks up with you, they don't want to be with you, but you want to be with them. They know this. And if you take that bullshit, all you're doing is inviting yourself to be abused by somebody.
Hey, so I'm going to say right now and here, it is okay to be an asshole at certain points in your life. And there are certain crossroads that you come upon in your life where you got to play the asshole card for self-preservation. Straight up.
Look, I'm gonna give you an example. When you're on an airplane and they tell you fix your breathing device before you fix your kids, that sounds like an asshole thing to do. That's what's necessary. You're gonna be fucking around trying to save somebody else, and you're gonna drown too. So you fix your own breathing device before you fix somebody else's. And like I said, even in that moment, with that first little 5 minutes they're talking about it, you actually think about it, like, God damn. So I got to pull this motherfucker. It may not inflate, but I'm breathe normal. Yeah. So you would have to wrap your mind around that situation before you help somebody else. Instead, you jump out there. I'm gonna be a hero, and like, nah, man. You got to take care of yourself first. You got to be whole first. Sometimes you need to heal first before you enter into another relationship. But it's hard because you're alone. But let me tell you something. Many times we get confused with something. We confuse being alone with being lonely. Lonely is a feeling, is the fear of. Being alone is being by yourself and being isolated. And many times that our fear of being alone is so great that we'll deal with shit we shouldn't deal with.
But being alone is a choice because people get so inside their head about their situation that they don't realize that they can choose to go and be around people if they want to. There's ways to immerse yourself.
There's people that want to be around you that are healthy. You don't have to be around an unhealthy thing. Or I'll give you an example. I remember one time my cousin, you know her, she had just broke up with somebody. It was a bad relationship. And she had called me just to talk. And I said, don't cut your hair. She's like, oh shit, I already did it. She said, how'd you know I was going to do that? I said, that's because you were in a situation where you felt like you had no choice. So what's the one thing you can control is your appearance. And that's what you did. I said, that's self-manipulation. You're so upset that this person took away your choice. And you wanted to be with him, and you thought you had a choice, and he eliminated your choice. So what are you going to do? I'm going to fuck with something I can. I said, don't sit here. That's the same thing. I said, that's a form of abuse. You're abusing yourself. You altered your appearance because what? Because you can control it. You don't know if he likes it. You don't know if he. In the back of your mind, like, oh, he'll come back if I look good. You never look bad. You're not looking bad.
Or what it is that person can only see that being the way to excise themselves from that part of their life.
Look, that's why this illusion of choice is such a deep topic. Is that so? Even when look at black folks, even though we don't control this, we get manipulated. Benign neglect. Benign neglect is a political way of manipulating somebody by bringing up things they want to talk about, but never actually do anything about it. We talk about racism, but we don't pass any laws that will actually help. We talk about helping black folks, but we don't give you reparations. So we do benign neglect. The Democratic Party is known for that. So benign neglect is when they bring up all these issues that you talk about, but never actually do anything about them. Guys do it all the time in relationships. Your woman wants to go on a trip. You get a bunch of brochures, you sit them on the table, but you don't buy shit.
I'll give you another example is peer pressure. So people think either you accept what's presented for you or you go the other way. So an example of this happened on May the 6th of this year in Omaha, Nebraska at a Berkshire Hathaway meeting. A man named Peter Flaherty was giving a speech. And Flaherty is the head of a legal group, a national legal group that fights corruption in corporations. And because he's a shareholder and he's on the board, at Berkshire Hathaway, or he was scheduled to speak because he was trying to present his case to run for one of the positions on the board. And in his speech, he spoke about how Warren Buffett needs to separate his public political image from the company's image. And he saw this as a threat to the prosperity of the company. And he cited examples of what is dangerous to the company that Mr. Buffett does out in the public. And he associates with himself with questionable characters. Two people. One directly, the other one by 1 degree of separation. The person I'm referring to is Bill Gates. Yes. And the 1 degree of separation is Jeffrey Epstein. And so because Bill Gates gives money to, because Warren Buffett gives money to Bill Gates.
Foundation.
To that foundation, which has all of these very, very questionable practices and projects. It puts Mr. Buffett's reputation at risk, therefore putting the company at risk. So this guy, within 2 minutes of him giving his speech, he was surrounded by security, and an off-duty OPD, Omaha Police Department, cop came up and snatched him and arrested him. He chose not to accept either one of those choices. He chose not to accept to be quiet, and then he chose not to, or the highway. You know, it was basically, it's my way or the highway, which is pretty much what Warren Buffett said in that situation. Well, Peter Flaherty said, no, dog, I'm going to speak truth to power in its purest form in front of thousands of people, and I'm going to put y'all on blast. The crazy part about it is, like, when he started talking about this, there was people whistling and clapping their hands in the audience. So there's some real ones in Omaha still.
Look, that's so deep and profound. And all he said was separate. He didn't say that you had to stop dealing with them.
He said, my man, you hanging out with known criminals.
Look, also, if any of you who want to look at, you can look at that video. But even if you look at the video,
did you watch the interview I sent you with him? Okay.
Yeah, I'd already seen it. But hold it. When you said it, all it sent me was a choice of 3 or 4 different ones. But the bottom line is, I seen the one where the British lady asked him about Jeffrey Epstein.
No, I'm talking about the one where he's on Jimmy Dore's show.
No, I didn't see that one.
It's like 15 minutes. You need to watch that one.
Okay. But the bottom line is, all he said, "Oh, he's dead." He didn't deny. He didn't say, "Oh no, I have nothing to do with that guy." He said, "Well, he's dead, so that's not a problem." That's what?
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me?
Right. Right.
Look, what we're saying is that they make you think that you're choosing these people, and what they're doing is just the opposite, eliminating your choice. And if you look at the past practices of this individual, we're talking about Mr. Bill Gates. He's known for eliminating choice. Remember in the early 90s when the antitrust laws, he would corrupt people's computer with the antivirus and then sell them the antivirus. He would sit there and eliminate his competition. That's why you have Linux, and that's why you have only 2 other operating systems out there, because he basically eliminated them all, except for Apple. But so he's about eliminating choice. Look at what he's done in his business practice. This man is about eliminating choice. He's also about manipulating and making money by not giving you a choice. Look, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they do a lot of crazy things. And that's why this individual decided to speak up against it and let people know. And like you said, he was serious about that. He was letting people know, like, hey, you need to separate yourself. You are the world's best investor, biggest investor. And, people take what you do serious.
Hey, listen, the whole point is that this guy said, hey, fuck this noise. I'm going to use this platform. I'm going to use my power to speak to a louder power. And they're going to hear me. They're going to feel me. And I don't care. And it shows. And I'm like, yep, there you go. That's what it looks like. That's when you have the ear of billionaires and you're 10 feet away from them, and you can pretty much say what you want to say. And he says, you can't censor me. So long as I stay within the bounds, I can say what I want to say. He's like, he said, okay, just keep it under 3 minutes. And I'm like, oh wow, that's some white people shit right there. Okay.
Yeah. Look, I know the handshake. Back the fuck up.
Right.
Remember back when they used to always try to hit them with the skull and bones, and he tried to hit the first George Bush with the skull and bones, and what did he say? I'm not leaving the room. That was a code. Steve Coakley was talking about it. He said, look, if you bring up skull and bones, a member is supposed to leave the room. And so somebody was trying to test him, and they were trying to test George Bush, the first one. And he goes, I'm not leaving the room until I'm done with my speech. I was like, oh, well, shit.
What did they say to him? What did they say to him?
No, they simply brought up skull and bones. I don't think they asked him if he was a member. I think they said something like, are you familiar with skull and bones? Or they asked him about skull and bones, and he just stops his speech. He goes, I'm not leaving the room until I'm done.
Right. He's like, you're going to stop, interrupt me, and let me say this shit. Now, of course, he's a straight up reptilian. You know what I mean? But that is.
Whoa! I wasn't saying he was a good guy. Not even remotely.
No, but you're like, you're basically telling me, hey, you see how the way Darth Vader he flicked his wrist and he chopped down. See, that's how you do it. That's all. It's like you're talking about technique. I get
it. Look, the illusion of choice. Choice is very important, and it's one of the key components of this whole American thing. That we got freedom of choice, we got freedom of this, freedom of that. But when people start eliminating the shit or manipulating the shit or making you fight somebody and you don't realize what's going on behind you it's a political sleight of hand. That's what we're trying to get you to understand is that there's other choices out there. You don't have to choose the two that they put in front of you. You can knock the table over. You can rebel, but don't do the shit just to sound cool. Don't sit here and talk about revolution because it's a keyword. No, it's more to it. You should be a complete whole individual, and I think that's what's missing. We got so many.
When I was a kid, they had the Pepsi challenge, and it was all about
I told you that story.
I didn't give a fuck about either one of those drinks. I'm gonna tell you who the fuck I am. My parents,
you like RC?
My parents used to get this when we have cookouts in like the summertime. We used to have this drink called Shasta. And Shasta had 17 different flavors. They had grape,
black
cream soda, black cherry, and all of it was good with ice cream. You know what I'm saying? Like you make a float out of that shit.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
The cream soda with vanilla would bust you upside the head, my dude. Listen. And the grape was some, come on, man. Listen. All I'm saying is that while they was like trying to crank that hype machine so fucking hard, I'm like, I don't like neither one of them. They're like, well, what do you want? Do you like this? I was like, they both sucked at me. They burned the shit out my throat and my nostrils. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want some Shasta. Give me some 7-Up or some Rondo or some fucking, you know what I'm saying? Like, give me some other
Shasta
shit.
Shasta is like a stripper name. That sounds like a stripper from...
Well, it's like some hippie shit from California, Mount Shasta. But
look. So, okay, this is what you're talking about. I was so manipulated. I was a little kid that imitated commercials. And
then Cherry Coke came out and he was like, oh, dog, this Cherry Coke is the shit. Listen,
oh, you remember that?
Yeah.
Burpee Coke?
But that's the whole thing. I was like, I don't like none of this bullshit. Like, that ain't my thing, dog. Like, I'm not. And I could tell, like, it was just like it was all artificial. I'm like, you got motherfuckers arguing over the same damn drink in 2 different bottles.
Look. Here, it was so bad that I wanted to be like the commercial. I wanted them to take the little notes and bring it out like you chose Pepsi, and I kept choosing Coke, and I finally decided, okay, I'm gonna pick the one that I don't like the taste. That's it took me 7 times to pick Pepsi. That's how bad it was, and I told you it's because I was influenced by commercials. Like, how about, do you remember this commercial when we were kids? Palmolive, and the girl would stick her hands in it. Oh, you're soaking in it. I would stick my hands in people's drink at a restaurant and got in trouble.
But,
I was like,
but check it out. Like, when I see a person drinking Pepsi now, I take notes. I take notes when I see a motherfucker like, oh shit, this is a motherfucker drinking some Pepsi. Like, and you're a normal ass person, okay?
Look, I like cherry Pepsi. Wild cherry Pepsi is delicious. But look, that's the whole thing, is that I was so influenced by commercials that I thought that whatever the commercial said was true. When you're a kid, you don't know any better. You don't realize that those people are telling you to buy the product because it's their product. No, you think everybody in the commercial is who they say they are.
And guess what? I never liked red Kool-Aid. Everybody was always about. I love grape Kool-Aid. That was my shit.
Grape Kool-Aid, orange. All the Kool-Aids were good.
No, no,
Red
no, no, no,
Kool-Aid
no. Grape Kool-Aid
was kind
with a
of
peanut butter sandwich. Brr,
that
dude,
was life.
boy.
Look, yeah, hold it. I like mine cold though. I had to have ice in mine. My Kool-Aid had to be cool. Look, that's the whole thing. Is that when you watch these commercials and you watch these political parties and you watch all this shit, you fuck around and get so many voices and so much shit jumbled in your head. You don't even know what you like. You don't know who you are. That's why you keep hearing people say, "Hey, I got to discover myself." I'm like, how you not know who you are? Look,
See, and
I'm
then,
gonna tell you like
and then
this.
you would hear people repeat that, and I'm like,
Yeah,
but you've been living in that body your whole life.
but go back to five podcasts ago. We talked about people having voices in their head and not making their own decisions and not having an inner monologue and people legitimately don't know who they are, and that's because there's
Or
so
the
many
people who
voices in your
don't
head.
have the inner monologue. That's what we were talking about. The people who don't have the inner dialogue.
I told you I had not an argument. I had a discussion with a friend of ours, and I'm like, I said, he's like, yeah, that's when God's talking. I said, you really think God is talking to you? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, so if God's talking, if that voice in your head, is that you or is that God? Or the fact the one listening is you, and you're too dumb to realize that you that you got so many voices in your head. And I'm like, stop thinking that you're that important for God to
You
come
know it's
down from
crazy.
Mount
You know
Sinai
it's
to talk to
crazy,
you.
man. I told you about this before, years ago when it first happened to me. When I was on the top of a mountain in North Carolina, in Asheville, and I was practicing my form, and the sun was going down, and I heard the word, and it was unlike anything I've ever heard
Ever.
before, ever, 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 and it was a pure signal coming from the center of everything, the center of the universe, and I didn't have to ask a person. I didn't come down from that person, that come down from that mountain and ask, my friends that was like walking around, hey, did you hear that? I didn't. You know why? Because I knew they wouldn't get it. Because I knew that was not for them. I knew that shit was
Oh no
just
no
for
no!
me.
For you, yeah. Look, I remember in philosophy class, my professor was telling me. He said, "I want you. The first thing you do in the morning is thank God. I want you to go to bed at night, and the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning and you gain consciousness, just say thank you, God." And I did that shit, and my mind blew up, and it was colors and sounds, and it was just so amazing. And so I tried it again the next day. It didn't work, but so I went back to class. Of course, this was the weekend. I go back to class on Monday. I'm like, "Hey, it worked. That shit was." He's like, "Yeah, it's called a self-realizing activity. That is something that is something you do that makes you shake God's hand. That's something that you do that awakens the God in you." I'm like, "Well, why didn't it work the second?" He's like, "No, it's not going to work again. You're chasing it. You're searching now. You're trying. That should inspire you to want to get closer to God. What you did, you knocked on God's like door a little bit, and He's like, come back later." There's nothing that compares to that. You got so many people tell you that they use drugs, or they're like they have a reason for using drugs. How many of these guys say that, hey, heroin's the highest you can get? You're always chasing a dragon. That's a spiritual experience. That's something that happened to them that they want to replicate, and it's hard to do, and they can't do it, but they don't stop. They're like, I don't like the way I feel, and I want to feel better. People chase that shit. Like I said, it inspired me. It made me way. What that man did, that professor, made me just. It was a spiritual awakening, and you just can't go back. I guess you got some people that go back and they start doing things, but not me, bro. And that's your choice. You can choose to be a piece of shit, or you can choose greatness. What else is there?
So we had this talk in the last episode, and one thing that still rings through my mind was this diagram that this person, the author, had described, and it makes a lot of sense. In this diagram, this guy said the Anunnaki begat the Elven people. They begat the Sumerians. Within the Sumerians, they were infiltrated by the Khazarians, who entered Babylon from the unprotected southern side. They left Babylon and traveled north and begat the Scythians in the Ukraine. Fast forward to England in the 1860s. when the Protocols of the Elders of Zion were created by British Freemasons to coerce Jewish people to move from comfortable Europe to the rugged, inhospitable desert in the same area where the Rothschilds had purchased the Suez Canal. Zionism was not created by religious people. It was actually created in the 1800s by Masons with a land grab agenda that would play out over several centuries, because they are merely Hiram Beef fanboys that want to create the aesthetic and supernatural conditions of the Middle East circa 1st century AD, right after the death of Jesus Christ. These are dark arts, magic practitioners that pine for the days of the Anunnaki. And people get caught up in emotional roller coasters. They get caught up in this emotional striptease that they put in front of you time after time after time, saying, hey, these people are fighting this people because of that. But meanwhile, you're not zooming out to see the entire shot, the entire part of the frame. You're like that person that goes to the movie and sits right in the front, and you're seeing this, all the grain in the film stock, or you're seeing all of the texture in the projection screen, and you're missing 2/3 of the movie because you're too close to the picture. You're having this visceral reaction to something when you really shouldn't. All you have to do is go back to the last row in the theater and sit back there. Because then what you're going to see is what the cinematographer saw when he looked through the eyepiece. And by viewing it like that, you see the entire picture, its full composition. And therefore, it has a different effect. Because then you can see a plan. See, plans are hard to see when you are too close to it. But when you step back, go watch a building being built. Now, there's probably, I'm talking to
25
a bunch of people.
Working on different shit.
I'm talking to adults that at some point in their professional career have worked near a job site where a building is being constructed every day near your job, and you drove past this structure that is being built every single day. Now, if you're just one of the guys inside the building and you're just pouring concrete, or you're doing this, that, and the third, you have a limited view of what the architect planned. But once you go outside that building and do a little time lapse every day with your memory, driving by, watching it slowly go up, even take pictures if you want, you'll see the progression of an idea. That same concept has been crystallized into centuries of warfare based on a false premises, based on the choice of illusion, that these people were told, well, this is what you have to do because it's natural, and this is your right. So choose this or this the highway. It's this way or the highway. There is no other way. But clearly, something has been going on for the past 12,500 years that people really aren't hip to. That people choose to just excise 6,500 years of that went on before a certain point, and say, all right, well, let's start it with this. Hold up. So you're telling me just because it's in this book, that's the beginning of everything? No, that's the beginning of a story. That's the beginning of a story that was given to people, that was altered by people, and then printed by people. So then you're getting a watered down version of that. So that's not the whole story. But it's the crazy part about it is the most juiciest parts of the story were taken out and hidden in Ethiopia. And then Prester John, who's a descendant of one of the Magi who witnessed the birth of Christ, is one of the people who had these stories, because he was a descendant of somebody who did something big in these stories. But the craziest parts that they don't want you to know about are not in that book. So then you're thinking, all right, well, maybe it's just this religion. No, because in the other ones, they have 2 books. And they make it so dense and confusing that people sit around and argue what's right about it for centuries. So, wait a minute. Why would I argue about my faith? That sounds like a lack of faith. So I'm not going to argue with people if they lack faith. That's their journey. Why would I argue with people about that? So clearly these people enjoy arguing over semantics. But that right there is an illusion of choice. You don't have to fall into these pits of iniquity. You don't have to submit your rational mind just because you have faith. That's a mistake that a lot of people have, is they throw that out the window.
Well, the thing about faith is yours. It belongs to you. It doesn't. You don't have to force it on somebody else, or they don't have to see the world your way for them to be right or wrong. It's yours. Keep it.
So then, when you look at the world that we live in, and okay, social media takes the lived experience and it just narrows it down to a very thin scope. And so much of what comes to you in your news feed is based off of choices that you make. And you can experiment with this and say, all right, I just want to fuck with this thing and see if it's only going to send me backflipping salamanders and bald eagles. And if you go look at that stuff, that's pretty much all you're going to see, unless something is being pushed. If something is being... See, it happened to me. I have a very particular set of things that I'm interested in. So it shows up in the news feed. And then all of a sudden I started seeing all this stuff that's completely unrelated. I'm like, well, that's not what I want. That stuff is being force-fed because somebody is paying to have that force-fed to everybody and not just me. It's the
That's
way,
not based on my decision.
You know what it feels like? It feels like when I go to the movies and there's a fucking commercial on. And I'm like, damn it, I don't want to watch TV in the public. I don't want to watch a fucking commercial right now. La, 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 la. I don't want to hear about this Toyota that can drive over mountains and it's electric and it has fucking, this movie star, behind the wheel. I don't give a shit about that. So then I choose to not engage and I'll just put my headphones on and just listen to whatever, I have to listen to and shit. But it feels like a forced perspective. It feels like, you came here to see this, and this is what either you can walk out or you can watch the commercial. No, I'm not going to do either one of those. I'm not going to engage. So there's always more than one. It's always a multiple choice. It's always a multiple choice. The whole idea that, the illusion of choice and you don't have a choice, you can apply that and say, all right, well, it happens with political parties. No, because you don't have to vote. You don't have to be engaged at all.
And bullshit.
Right. But then, of course, the rubber's going to meet the road, and you'll find yourself in situations where there are physical obstructions in your day-to-day existence because people who were elected or may not be elected got together and made some shit happen that directly affects your life. So, and one of those is gun control. You know what I'm saying? So then it's like, all right, well, I need to have a weapon to protect myself from stupid people. You know, and, okay, so there is a point where you do have to make a choice about certain things. And that is one of them, protecting yourself. You can choose to be a pacifist, and that's cool, but you're going to call somebody to come and help you. Especially if you don't know how to defend yourself, you're going to call somebody to come and help you. Now, in some of these situations, you can handle that shit right there. You know what I'm saying? And for $350, you can get yourself a flamethrower and put it on the end of your fucking car.
He's being serious.
Hey, that motherfucker's hard.
Hey, look, we just want y'all to be aware of what's going on around you. One of the things that popped up on my feed was they were talking about somebody suing the president over basically the FBI, the president, vice president, all these people were manipulating social media to censor certain people. And that goes against the First Amendment. So he's being sued. Check that shit out. Being sued for violating people's First Amendment rights. And what they were doing they were saying even though the social media doesn't belong to that person, they still have a right to free speech. So check out how that one turns out. I thought you might find that kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's actually like a hotly contested one because, I mean, on the real, what it comes down to is like, they're sitting around these smoke-filled rooms and they're trying to figure out, listen, we got to figure out how to chip away at this shit so we can get complete control over it. We can't do it too fast, all right? Well, we got to slow it down, but we got to move faster. They're always wanting to control us because we're this huge, abominable snow monster that is out of control, and they want to try and, Master Blaster, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, control us like the little guy on the shoulder. You know what I'm saying? And control our brutish ways because they're afraid. They're afraid that they know their time is running out, and the next Yuga cycle is beginning, and more people are waking up, and then you got weird shit like this fucking Oumuamua that's like flying across our solar system, and then you have on top of that a cosmic wave, which is bringing cosmic particle dust through our solar system, which has ionized rays in it, which cuts through our body. You know what I'm saying? Like in a way that a bullet never could, and that has an effect on your consciousness. And that awareness is like, it's like you're going outside and you're feeling rain on yourself, on your face. You go outside and you feel rain. And if you don't recoil, like, oh, the rain is going to kill me, stop being a little bitch. It's just water. But let that rain fall on your face for a second. And like my man Duct Tape said, be filled with gratitude that you're alive to experience that you're here, that you chose your parents, and you chose this existence, you chose the struggles, and you chose the lessons. There's always a choice. Don't let them get in your head and make you think there's not. That's all I got. We out. Peace.
Holla back.